The University of Texas Tower Shooting. On August 1st, 1966, Charles Joseph Whitman, a 25-year-old former Marine and student at the University of Texas at Austin, carried out one of the first mass shootings in modern American history. That morning, Whitman killed his mother and wife before heading to the university's main building armed with multiple firearms. He climbed to the 28th floor observation deck of the campus tower, standing 231 feet above ground. At 11:48 a.m., he began firing indiscriminately at students, faculty, and bystanders below. For 90 minutes, he continued shooting at people across campus and on nearby streets. By the time law enforcement reached the observation deck and killed him, 15 people had been murdered on campus, plus his mother and wife, bringing the total to 18 deaths. An additional 31 people were wounded. An autopsy later revealed Whitman had a brain tumor pressing against his amygdala, the part of the brain linked to emotion and aggression, though experts could never determine its exact influence on his actions. The San Ysidro McDonald's massacre. On July 18, 1984, James Oliver Huberty, a 41-year-old man, walked into a McDonald's restaurant in San Ysidro, San Diego, armed with an Uzi rifle, a 9mm Browning pistol, and a 12-gauge shotgun. He ordered patrons to the ground and then opened fire for 77 minutes, shooting at customers and employees without distinction. His victims included men, women, children, and elderly individuals. The massacre claimed 21 lives, including an unborn baby, and wounded 19 others. One of the wounded later died from their injuries. Survivors hid in closets and storage rooms while others tried to escape. Law enforcement eventually surrounded the building, and a police sniper stationed on a nearby rooftop took the decisive shot, killing Huberty and ending the rampage. Investigations revealed Huberty had a history of mental health issues, unstable employment, and growing frustration with society. The day before the shooting, he had told his wife he intended to hunt humans. The Columbine High School shooting. On April 20th, 1999, Eric Harris, aged 18, and Dylan Klebold, aged 17, carried out one of the most infamous school shootings in American history at Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado. The two students had spent nearly a year carefully planning their attack, which was supposed to begin with powerful bombs set in the school cafeteria during lunchtime. These devices were meant to kill hundreds, but they failed to detonate. When their plan fell apart, Harris and Klebold switched to firearms and began shooting their classmates. The attack resulted in 13 deaths, 12 students and 1 teacher, along with 23 gunshot injuries and 3 additional injuries sustained during the chaos. The shooters carried saw-off shotguns, semi-automatic rifles, pistols, and homemade explosives. Most of the violence occurred in the school library, where they killed 10 students before taking their own lives. The Columbine massacre triggered widespread national discussions about gun access, bullying, violent video games, and youth mental health. It also led to major changes in how schools and police prepare for active shooter incidents. The Virginia Tech shooting. On April 16, 2007, Sung-Hui Cho, a 23-year-old senior student at Virginia Tech University in Blacksburg, Virginia, carried out the deadliest mass shooting by a single individual in U.S. school history. The attack began at a dormitory where Cho shot 2 people. He then gathered additional ammunition and moved to Norris Hall, a classroom building. After chaining the doors shut and posting a note suggesting bombs were present, Cho began his assault. Armed with 2 handguns and nearly 400 rounds of ammunition, he moved methodically between classrooms, shooting at students and faculty members. Witnesses described how he scanned for targets before opening fire on trapped victims. One professor blocked a classroom door with his body, allowing many students to escape, though he was killed in the process. By the time Cho took his own life, 32 people lay dead, and 17 others were wounded. Investigations revealed Cho had a long history of mental health struggles. In 2005, he was deemed a danger to himself and ordered into psychiatric treatment, but follow-up care was inconsistent, and despite warning signs, little intervention occurred. The Fort Hood shooting. On November 5, 2009, Major Nidal Malik Hassan, an Army psychiatrist, entered the Soldier Readiness Processing Center at Fort Hood near Killeen, Texas, a secure military base, and opened fire on unarmed soldiers and civilians preparing for deployment. Armed with an FN-57 semi-automatic pistol and hundreds of rounds of ammunition, Hassan killed 13 people and wounded 32 others. The attack stunned the nation because it happened on a protected military installation. Authorities had been aware of warning signs, including communications between Hassan and extremist figures overseas. But those warnings did not lead to preventive action. During the attack, Hassan engaged in shootouts with military police before being shot and paralyzed from the waist down. He was arrested and taken into military custody. During his 2013 court-martial, Hassan was convicted on 13 counts of premeditated murder and 32 counts of attempted premeditated murder. He was sentenced to death. Prosecutors argued the attack was driven by ideological extremism, particularly Hassan's opposition to U.S. involvement in Middle Eastern conflicts. The Aurora Theater shooting. On July 20, 2012, James Egan Holmes, age 24, opened fire during a midnight screening of The Dark Knight Rises at the Century 16 Theater in Aurora, Colorado. Before the shooting, Holmes had booby-trapped his apartment with explosives and incendiary devices. At the theater, he released what appeared to be tear gas grenades inside, then opened fire on the audience. The attack killed 12 people, plus an unborn child, and wounded approximately 70 others. Holmes was quickly arrested outside the theater and did not attempt to flee. When authorities cleared his apartment, bomb squad units discovered and defused homemade explosive devices. Holmes confessed to the shooting, but later pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. During trial, he was convicted of 24 counts of first-degree murder, 140 counts of attempted first-degree murder, and 1 count of possessing explosives. Due to juror disagreement, the death penalty was not applied, and Holmes received a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. The Sandy Hook Elementary shooting. On December 14, 2012, Adam Lanza, a 20-year-old, began his day by killing his mother, Nancy Lanza, in their home. He then drove to Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut, which served children in kindergarten through 4th grade. Armed with a semi-automatic rifle and 2 handguns, Lanza shot through a locked glass door to enter the school carrying hundreds of rounds of ammunition stored in high-capacity magazines. Once inside, he opened fire in the front office and lobby before moving into classrooms. He killed 20 children, all only 6 or 7 years old, along with 6 adult staff members who tried to protect them. At approximately 9:40 a.m., Lanza ended the attack by taking his own life. In total, 27 people died, and 2 others were injured but survived. Investigations revealed the firearms had been legally purchased years earlier by Lanza's mother. On the morning of the attack, he destroyed his computer hard drive, making it difficult for authorities to understand his planning. While he had a history of mental health issues, no single diagnosis could explain his actions. The Sandy Hook tragedy prompted intense national conversations about gun laws, mental health services, and high-capacity firearms, leading to major discussions on school safety and legislative changes. The Charleston church shooting. On June 17, 2015, Dylan Roof, a 21-year-old white supremacist, targeted the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston, South Carolina, a historic black congregation with deep roots in American history. Around 9:05 p.m., Roof entered during a Bible study session. He sat with the group for a short time before pulling out a .45 caliber Glock handgun and opening fire. He killed 9 African-American worshipers whose ages ranged from 26 to 87, including Clementa C. Pinckney, the church's pastor and a South Carolina state senator. The massacre shocked the nation because it occurred in a place of worship meant to offer refuge and peace. Roof's actions were rooted in extremist ideology. He had consumed large amounts of white supremacist propaganda online and wrote a manifesto describing his belief in a coming race war. He admitted he chose the church specifically because of its significance to the black community. Roof was arrested the following day and convicted on numerous charges, including federal hate crimes. He received the death penalty, becoming the first person in U.S. history sentenced to death for a federal hate crime. The Pulse nightclub shooting. On June 12, 2016, the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida, became the site of one of the deadliest mass shootings in American history. Omar Mateen, a 29-year-old security guard, entered the nightclub shortly after 2:00 a.m. during its popular Latin night. The club was packed with patrons, many of them members of the LGBTQ+ and Latino communities. When Mateen opened fire with a semi-automatic rifle and a handgun, panic erupted as people rushed to escape. Some tried to flee through the dance floor while others hid in restrooms and closets. During the standoff, Mateen contacted emergency dispatchers and pledged allegiance to ISIS, claiming his actions were motivated by U.S. military activity in the Middle East. Police arrived quickly and surrounded the building, exchanging fire with the attacker for several hours. Eventually, authorities breached the building, leading to a final gunfight in which Mateen was killed. In total, 49 people were killed, not including the shooter, and more than 50 were wounded by gunfire. Others were injured in the scramble to escape or from debris. The Pulse shooting drew global attention to the vulnerability of LGBTQ+ spaces and sparked ongoing debates over gun control and radicalization. The Las Vegas Music Festival shooting. On October 1, 2017, the Las Vegas Strip witnessed the deadliest mass shooting committed by a single individual in United States history. The attack occurred during the Route 91 Harvest Music Festival, where approximately 22,000 people had gathered for an outdoor country music concert. Stephen Craig Paddock, a 64-year-old, had checked into the Mandalay Bay Hotel days earlier. From a suite on the 32nd floor, he stockpiled dozens of firearms and large quantities of ammunition. On the night of the concert, Paddock smashed the windows of his hotel room to create firing positions overlooking the festival grounds. At 10:05 p.m., he began shooting into the crowd using rifles equipped with rapid-fire modifications. The assault lasted roughly 10 minutes, during which Paddock fired over 1,000 rounds. Concertgoers were caught completely off guard. Many dropped to the ground while others ran for cover. The scene quickly turned chaotic, with hundreds injured not only by gunfire, but also by stampedes as thousands attempted to escape. By the time police reached the hotel room, Paddock had taken his own life. The death toll eventually reached 60 victims, with more than 800 others injured. Despite an exhaustive investigation, law enforcement never identified a clear motive for the attack. The Parkland High School shooting. On February 14, 2018, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, became the scene of a devastating school shooting. Nikolas Cruz, a 19-year-old former student, was dropped off by an Uber driver at approximately 2:19 p.m., carrying a backpack and a rifle case containing an AR-15-style semi-automatic rifle and multiple magazines. He entered Building 12 at about 2:21 p.m. Building 12 had 3 stories and about 30 classrooms. Many students were still in class. Cruz assembled his weapon at the base of a stairwell and then moved into a hallway on the first floor, opening fire on students. He killed 3 students immediately in that hallway before proceeding to shoot through classroom windows, killing 6 more students and wounding 13 others. 2 teachers were also killed on the first floor. Cruz then moved to the second floor, firing without hitting anyone, before moving to the third floor, where he killed 6 students and another staff member. In total, 17 people were killed, 14 students and 3 staff members, and 17 others were wounded. Warning signs had appeared before the attack. Cruz had been expelled from the school the previous year for disciplinary issues and made statements that concerned other students. The Parkland shooting ignited a national movement among students and parents calling for stronger gun reform and improved school security. Cruz was arrested shortly after and in 2022 was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The Sutherland Springs church shooting. On November 5, 2017, tragedy struck at the First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, Texas. Around 11:20 a.m., Devin Patrick Kelly, a 26-year-old man, entered the church during Sunday service. Armed with a Ruger AR 5.56 semi-automatic rifle, a Glock 19 pistol, and a Ruger SR 22 pistol, Kelly opened fire on the congregation, creating one of the deadliest shootings at a place of worship in United States history. The shooting lasted just over 10 minutes, during which 26 people were killed, including an unborn child, and 22 others were wounded. The victims included men, women, and children, with ages ranging from toddlers to elderly worshipers. Among those killed was the 14-year-old daughter of the church pastor. Survivors faced lifelong consequences. For example, Chris Workman, a young church member, was shot twice and left paralyzed from the waist down. Investigations revealed Kelly's troubling history. During his time in the U.S. Air Force, he was court-martialed and convicted of domestic violence after assaulting his wife and stepson. This conviction should have barred him from legally purchasing firearms under federal law. However, due to the Air Force's failure to report the conviction to the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, Kelly was able to buy multiple weapons. In 2021, a federal judge ruled the Air Force partly responsible, awarding nearly $230 million in damages to victims and their families. The El Paso Walmart shooting. On August 3, 2019, the city of El Paso, Texas, became the site of a devastating act of violence. At approximately 10:38 a.m., Patrick Wood Crucius, a 21-year-old, opened fire inside a Walmart located near the Cielo Vista Mall. His attack was fueled by far-right extremist ideology, anti-immigrant sentiment, and white supremacist beliefs tied to the Great Replacement conspiracy theory. Crucius had driven from Allen, Texas, with the deliberate intention of targeting Hispanic individuals as a hate crime. Armed with an AR-10 semi-automatic rifle, he began shooting at shoppers both inside the store and in the surrounding parking lot. Within minutes, 23 people were killed, and 22 others were injured. Many of the victims were Hispanic, and families shopping for back-to-school supplies were among those caught in the gunfire. Prior to the shooting, Crucius had posted an online manifesto outlining his extremist views, including fears of Hispanic immigrants displacing white Americans. He referenced other mass shootings and framed his actions as part of a larger ideological movement. Crucius was arrested at the scene without further violence. Federal prosecutors charged him with 90 counts, including hate crimes and firearms violations. In February 2023, he pleaded guilty and received 90 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. The Uvalde Elementary School shooting. On May 24, 2022, tragedy unfolded at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. Salvador Rolando Ramos, an 18-year-old, shot his grandmother at home, leaving her critically injured. He then drove to the school, arriving around 11:20 a.m. Armed with an AR-15 style rifle and multiple magazines, Ramos entered through a door that could only be locked from the outside, giving him direct access to the classrooms. Once inside, he targeted 2nd through 4th grade classrooms. In a span of 74 minutes, he killed 19 students and 2 teachers and wounded many others. The children ranged from 9 to 11 years old. The attack left the community shattered. Nearly 400 law enforcement officers from local, state, and federal agencies responded. However, the response was heavily criticized. Investigations found serious failures in leadership, communication, and tactical planning. Many officers waited outside or in hallways instead of immediately engaging the shooter, allowing Ramos to continue the attack without interruption for over an hour. A Border Patrol tactical unit eventually breached the classrooms and fatally shot Ramos, ending the siege. Afterward, Texas and national leaders faced intense scrutiny, with families filing lawsuits and settlements being reached, though questions of accountability continued. The Lewiston Maine shooting. On October 25, 2023, the city of Lewiston, Maine, became the site of a mass shooting that left 18 people dead and 13 others wounded. Robert Russell Card II, a 40-year-old U.S. Army reservist who served as a firearms and grenade instructor, carried out the attacks in two public places. The shooting began at Just-in-Time Recreation, a bowling alley during a youth league event. From there, Card drove to Shungi's Bar and Grill, where a cornhole tournament was taking place for members of the local deaf community. Victims ranged in age from 14 to 76. The shooting triggered a lockdown of the entire region as authorities urged residents to shelter in place during what became the largest manhunt in Maine's history. Card's body was found 49 hours later. He had died by taking his own life inside a trailer at a recycling facility where he once worked. Prior to the attack, Card had displayed clear signs of mental health decline, including erratic behavior and threats. He had been hospitalized after exhibiting paranoid episodes, and his family and colleagues had repeatedly warned authorities. Investigations revealed that Card suffered from traumatic brain injuries likely linked to his military service and repeated exposure to blast waves during training. An independent commission later concluded that law enforcement had probable cause under Maine's yellow flag law to seize Card's weapons a month before the shooting. But this action was never taken. Families and survivors filed lawsuits claiming military officials and law enforcement ignored multiple warning signs, arguing the tragedy could have been prevented had authorities acted earlier. Thank you for watching. If you learned anything, let me know with a like, and comment below on what you would like to see in the future. History never runs out of surprises, and neither do we. So subscribe and join me for the next dive into the archives.